The Grand Council Hall floated in the center of the galaxy like a jewel of light. Massive pillars of glowing crystal reached toward the high dome above, where stars could be seen moving slowly, like silent witnesses. This hall was not just a place of meetings, it was where the fate of entire worlds was decided. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from hundreds of advanced civilizations waited in silence. Some had wings, some had scales, some were made of light itself, but all of them were here for one reason. The 5 royal princesses had arrived. They walked together into the hall, their presence commanding instant attention. Each princess represented a different star system, a different culture, and a different kind of power. Their silver armor reflected the light around them, and their eyes showed confidence that came from ruling the galaxy for thousands of years. Whispers spread across the hall. They are unstoppable. They carry the strongest bloodline. The future of the empire stands behind them. The princesses took their places near the central platform. They looked calm, untouchable. Then the topic of the council appeared as a massive hologram above the floor. Planet Earth. The reaction was instant. Laughter. Soft at first, then louder. One princess tilted her head and smiled with clear amusement. "Earth?" she said. "Why is that primitive planet even mentioned here?" Another princess crossed her arms. "They still fight wars among themselves. They poison their own air. They are divided by borders they created." A third laughed openly. "They call themselves intelligent, yet they cannot even leave their own solar system properly." The council hall filled with mocking sounds. Earth was known across the galaxy, but not with respect. Humans were seen as emotional, short-lived, and weak, a species driven by fear and hope, not logic and control. In galactic records, Earth was labeled as developing, which was a polite word for insignificant. The princesses did not hide their feelings. "They are useful only for labor," one said, "or experiments," another added. "Certainly not allies," the third finished. On a distant platform, a small human delegation stood silently. They wore simple uniforms, no glowing armor, no advanced weapons on display, just calm faces and steady posture. One of them, a human male, looked up at the laughing council. His face showed no anger, no shame, only quiet focus. He had learned long ago that humans survived not by shouting, but by enduring. Before the laughter could grow louder, a deep sound echoed through the hall. Boom! A staff struck the crystal floor. The sound alone was enough to silence everyone. The galactic king had entered. He was ancient, far older than the empire itself. His body was weak, supported by advanced technology, but his presence was heavy. When he looked at someone, it felt as if he could see their past and future at the same time. The king slowly moved to the center. "The council will show respect," he said calmly. The princesses straightened, the laughter stopped. The king raised his hand, and the hologram of Earth remained, glowing softly. "You laugh at this planet," the king continued, "because you see only what is on the surface." One princess spoke carefully now. "With respect, Your Majesty, Earth has no strategic value, no great fleets, no superior technology." The king nodded. "That is true." Some of the council members looked confused. "Then why are we discussing them?" someone asked. The king's eyes darkened slightly. "Because our empire is dying." A wave of shock moved through the hall. Our science has reached its limits. Our bloodline grows weaker with each generation. Our future is unstable. The princesses exchanged quick glances. This was the first time many of them were hearing this.
We have searched thousands of worlds, billions of species. None could help us." He paused, "until we looked at Earth." The hall exploded with noise again, but this time it was disbelief. "Impossible! They are biologically inferior. They barely survive their own planet." The king raised his staff again, and silence returned. "You call them weak, yet they survive constant conflict. You call them emotional, yet they rebuild after every disaster. You call them divided, yet when faced with extinction, they stand together." The human delegation remained quiet. One of them briefly glanced toward the audience, as if aware they were being watched, and in a calm, respectful tone, the narrator gently adds, "If you want to see how this story unfolds and how humans change the fate of the galaxy, consider subscribing to the channel." The king turned toward the princesses. "You laugh at Earth today, but soon the survival of this empire may depend on a single human choice." The princesses stared at the human delegation now, not laughing anymore. The human male met their gaze. In his eyes was something they did not understand. Not weakness, but endurance. And deep within the stars above the council hall, destiny had already begun to shift. The council hall did not return to laughter. After the king's words, a heavy silence filled the space. Even the stars visible through the crystal dome seemed to slow, as if listening. The 5 alien princesses stood still, their earlier confidence shaken. For the first time in their long lives, they were not sure what the future held. The galactic king slowly turned away from the hologram of Earth. His breathing was controlled, but weak. Everyone could see it now. Time was winning against him. "There is something you must all understand," the king said. "This is not a discussion. This is a necessity." One of the princesses stepped forward. She was known across the galaxy for her sharp mind and cold logic. "With respect, Your Majesty, we cannot trust the future of the Empire to a species that cannot even control itself." Several council members nodded. The king looked at her calmly. "You speak of control," he replied, "yet your scientists have failed to control decay within our own bloodline." The word struck hard. A massive holographic screen appeared beside the throne. It showed complex symbols, genetic structures, and warning signals glowing red. "Our race has reached a dead end. For thousands of years, we believed ourselves perfect, but perfection does not adapt, it only repeats." The screen shifted. Now it showed human DNA, messy, chaotic, full of irregular patterns. The princesses frowned. "This is exactly why humans are unstable. Their biology is flawed." "Yes," the king agreed, "and that flaw is their strength." The hall murmured again. "Humans adapt faster than any species we have studied. They survive poison worlds, frozen lands, endless wars. They evolve through suffering." He paused. "Our scientists confirmed something impossible. Human genetic structure can stabilize our own." The words fell like thunder. The princesses reacted instantly. "This is unacceptable," one said sharply. "This alliance would shame the royal bloodline," another added. "We will become a joke across the galaxy," the third said coldly. The king closed his eyes for a moment. "When I am gone, there must be something left worth ruling." He raised a sealed crystal tablet into the air. "This," he announced, "is my final will." The council gasped. The crystal opened, projecting ancient royal law, words that had not been spoken in centuries. "Royal decree. The survival of the empire takes priority over pride." The king's voice grew stronger. "By royal law, The 5 princesses will form a life-bound alliance with a compatible species chosen by scientific and ethical review. The princesses froze. One of them whispered, almost in disbelief, "You cannot mean."
I do, the king said. The chosen species is human. Chaos erupted. Council members shouted, leaders protested, some even stood up in anger. This breaks tradition. This law was never meant for this. Humans are beneath us. The king slammed his staff down. The sound echoed like a warning. Tradition will not save us, he said. Adaptation will. The princesses turned slowly toward the human delegation. For the first time, they truly looked at them. Not soldiers, not warriors, just fragile-looking beings of flesh and bone. The human male, who had been silent the entire time, stepped forward. He did not bow deeply. He did not beg. He simply spoke. "We did not ask for this," he said calmly, "but we do not run from responsibility." The hall went quiet again. One princess laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "You think responsibility makes you strong?" she asked. "You will break." The human looked at her. "Maybe," he said, "but humans have been breaking and standing back up for our entire history." That answer stayed in the air longer than expected. The king watched the exchange closely. "This alliance will be tested," the king said. "The human will face trials, mental, physical, moral." The princesses smiled slightly now. "He will fail," one said confidently. "Perhaps," the king replied, "or perhaps you will learn something you never wished to." The human was escorted forward, alone, into the center of the hall. Surrounded by beings far stronger, far older, and far more advanced, yet he stood straight. Inside his mind, he remembered Earth, broken cities, endless struggle, hope surviving where logic said it should not. As guards closed in around him, one thought remained clear. They believe humans are weak because they never saw what humans endure. High above the council hall, unseen ships began to move. Other empires were watching, and they did not like what they were seeing. The future of the galaxy had been placed in human hands, and the galaxy was about to test how strong weak truly was. The Chamber of Trials was buried deep beneath the royal capital. No windows, no stars, no audience. Only cold metal walls and a silent floor that absorbed every sound. The human stood alone at the center. Across from him, behind a transparent energy wall, the 5 alien princesses observed quietly. Their expressions were calm, almost bored. To them, this was not a test of survival, it was a formality before failure. The lead scientist activated the system. "Trial 1, the artificial voice announced. "Psychological endurance." The room changed instantly. The metal walls dissolved into darkness. The human found himself standing in a ruined city, Earth. Buildings were broken, smoke filled the air, sirens screamed in the distance. He recognized this place. It was not a simulation pulled from public data. It was his memory. The ground shook as explosions echoed. People ran past him, screaming. He saw faces he once knew, friends, family. One of the princesses leaned forward slightly. "Interesting," she said. "We are not attacking his body, only his mind." The human's breathing slowed. Pain flashed across his face, but he did not scream, he did not beg. Instead, he closed his eyes. He remembered something else: survival. On Earth, suffering was not a test, it was daily life. The illusion intensified. A child cried for help. A building collapsed. The system pushed deeper, searching for a breaking point. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. The human opened his eyes. He took one step forward. The illusion shattered. The chamber returned. A small crack appeared on the energy wall. The scientist stared at the readings. He accepted it, he whispered. He didn't fight the memory, he carried it. The princesses exchanged glances. Trial 1 ended. Trial 2 began immediately. Ethical judgment, the voice announced. The floor split into 2 paths. On one side, a hologram of an alien city, royal citizens, millions of lives. On the other, Earth, unprotected, fragile, billions at risk. A cold voice spoke. You may save only one. The princesses watched closely now. He will choose his own kind, one said confidently. The human looked at both paths. His hands trembled, not from fear, from weight. He knew this choice. Humans had faced it before. War always demanded someone be left behind. Slowly, he stepped forward, then stopped. He turned to the observers. This test is wrong, he said calmly. The scientists frowned. Choose. No, the human replied. A leader who accepts this choice has already failed. The chamber shook. Alarms flashed. The system had not predicted refusal. The human continued, his voice steady. Humans learn something the hard way. If survival costs your soul, then what survives is not worth saving. Silence. One princess felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Trial 2 ended without a result. Trial 3 began immediately. Physical limitation, the voice announced. Gravity increased, then increased again. The human dropped to one knee. Alien physiology handled this gravity easily. Human bones were not designed for it. Sweat poured down his face. Muscles screamed. Vision blurred. Enough, one princess said suddenly. He will break. The king, watching from afar, did not speak. The human forced himself up. Every movement felt like tearing metal. He took one step, then another. Why? Not for glory, not for power, for responsibility. On Earth, quitting was a luxury few could afford. The gravity reached lethal levels. The human collapsed. Monitors screamed warnings. But before the system could shut down, the human lifted his head and laughed. A weak, breathless sound, but real. The princesses froze. On Earth, he whispered, this would just be another bad day. The system shut down instantly. Emergency lights filled the chamber. The trials were over. Medical drones rushed in, lifting the human carefully. His body was damaged, bruised, strained, but alive and unbroken. As he was carried away, one of the princesses realized something disturbing. They had designed these trials to expose weakness. Instead, they had exposed something else. Human endurance was not loud, not elegant, not perfect. It was stubborn, relentless, dangerous. Later, in the observation chamber, the 5 princesses stood in silence. No species should survive that, one said quietly. But humans do, another replied. Far away, unseen by the council, unknown fleets adjusted their course. They had seen the trial data, and they understood the threat. If humans were allowed to rise beside the empire, the balance of the galaxy would change forever, and not everyone wanted that. The Royal Medical Wing was silent except for the soft hum of machines. The human lay on a floating platform surrounded by glowing instruments. His body was covered with light scars now, marks left by gravity, pressure, and strain that should have crushed him. Yet his heartbeat was steady.
One of the alien doctors studied the data in disbelief. "His biology is unstable," the doctor said, "but it constantly repairs itself." "Like it refuses to give up," another whispered. Behind the transparent wall, two of the princesses watched quietly. "He should hate us," one said. "He doesn't even know us, yet he endured everything." Later, the human opened his eyes. The room felt unfamiliar, too clean, too silent. One of the princesses stood near him. She did not wear her armor now. Without it, she looked less like a ruler and more like a person. "You survived," she said. The human gave a weak smile. "That seems to disappoint many people."
She did not laugh. Instead, she asked something unexpected. "Why did you refuse the second trial?" The human looked at the ceiling for a moment. "Because some choices destroy you, even if you win," he said. "Humans learn that too late." The princess felt something shift inside her. She had ruled systems, ordered fleets, sacrificed millions without losing sleep. Yet this fragile being spoke of limits. Outside the medical wing, the empire moved forward. The king ordered the alliance process to begin. Not a ceremony, a preparation. Royal scholars protested, military leaders warned of weakness, political rivals whispered rebellion. And across the galaxy, spies listened carefully. The princesses were brought together in a private chamber. "This alliance changes everything," one said sharply. "Our enemies will see this as weakness." "No," another replied slowly. "They will see it as uncertainty. That is worse." A third princess remained silent. She was thinking about the human's words. "Some choices destroy you." The human was allowed limited freedom inside the royal complex. No guards followed him closely, not because he was trusted, but because no one believed he was dangerous. That belief would not last. During a cultural briefing, the human asked a simple question. "What happens to your people if the royal line ends?" The scholars exchanged uneasy looks. "There is no empire without the bloodline," one admitted. "The systems would fracture, wars would begin." The human nodded slowly. "So this is not about power, it's about survival." That understanding surprised them. Days passed, then weeks. Medical reports confirmed something impossible. The alliance was working. The royal bloodline markers were stabilizing. Not perfect, but alive. When the news reached the council, panic spread faster than hope. A message arrived from beyond the empire's borders. Unknown signature, encrypted. The king read it in silence. Then his grip tightened. "They are coming," he said quietly. "What?" asked one of the princesses. "The outer coalitions," the king replied. "They believe the empire is vulnerable." The human was present when this was discussed. He listened. He learned. And he understood something the others did not. Earth had faced this before. Predators always attacked when they smelled weakness. "We should hide the human," one general suggested. "Protect the asset." The human shook his head. "That will confirm their fear and their attack." The room fell quiet. "You suggest we expose you?" a princess asked. "I suggest," the human replied, "that you stop pretending this alliance is shameful." Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. One of the princesses stepped forward. "If they attack Earth, they attack the Empire." The others turned toward her. She met their gaze without fear. "We laughed at humans. We were wrong." That sentence echoed louder than any declaration of war. Across the stars, enemy fleets aligned. They believed the Empire had made a fatal mistake. They believed humans were weak. And for the first time, the princesses hoped the galaxy would learn what Earth had learned long ago. Never underestimate a species that survives itself. The storm was coming, and this time
Humans would not be watching from the shadows. The first warning came as a whisper in deep space. Then the sensor screamed. Enemy fleets appeared at the edge of the Empire's territory, dozens of armadas from rival coalitions that had waited centuries for this moment. They did not come to negotiate. They came to erase. The Empire's commanders rushed into action, shields activated, fleets mobilized, war protocols engaged. Yet fear moved faster than any ship. "They know about the alliance," a strategist said. "They think we are weak," another replied. "They think Earth is our weakness," a third added. The humans stood among them, listening. On the main display, hostile messages flooded in. "Hand over the human, end the alliance, or the Empire burns." One of the princesses clenched her fists. "They want you as a symbol," she said. "If you fall, our unity falls." The human looked at the screen. On Earth, humans had learned this truth early. Bullies never stop at the first demand. "If I surrender," he said quietly, "they will not stop. They will only ask for more." The room fell silent. The king nodded slowly. "Then we stand." That decision echoed across the stars. The Empire broadcast a single message to the galaxy. Earth stands with us. The reaction was immediate. Enemy fleets accelerated. The first battle erupted near the outer systems. Energy weapons lit the darkness. Ships burned. Worlds trembled. The Empire's forces were powerful, but divided. Some commanders still doubted the alliance. Some fought with hesitation. The human was escorted to a secure command center. "Stay here," a general ordered. "Your survival is critical." The human looked at the battle feed. Critical. He remembered Earth cities burning, leaders hiding, people left to die while others decided their fate from safe rooms. "No," he said. The general turned sharply. "You cannot fight." "I know, but I can speak." Before anyone could stop him, the human accessed the Empire's broadcast network. A live signal spread across fleets, across planets, across the galaxy. Earth humans saw it too. The human stood before the camera. He did not shout. He did not threaten. "My name does not matter," he said. "I am human." Enemy commanders laughed at first. Then he continued. "Across the galaxy, humans are called weak, and maybe we are." He paused. "But weakness taught us something." Images appeared, Earth history, disasters, wars, rebuilding. "When everything breaks," he said, "you learn what truly matters." Princesses watched silently. "This empire chose us," the human continued, "not because we are strong, but because we endure." The signal reached Earth. Human fleets, small, outdated, ignored, received the message. And something changed. Earth had never been united like this before. Governments stopped arguing, militaries coordinated, civil ships armed themselves, not because they were ordered, because they chose to. The enemy did not expect resistance from Earth. They laughed until Earth ships arrived. Not powerful, not advanced, but countless. They moved in formations learned from centuries of losing wars. They protected Empire ships, took hits meant for others, covered retreats. One enemy commander shouted in disbelief, "They are sacrificing themselves." A princess whispered, "No, they are protecting us." The battlefield shifted. Empire forces, seeing humans stand without hesitation, found their courage. The alliance was no longer theoretical. It was real. Then the enemy made their final move. A massive weapon charged, a system killer aimed directly at Earth. The humans saw it. So did the princesses. If Earth fell, the alliance would break. The empire would collapse from within. The king's voice trembled. "We cannot stop it in time." The human closed his eyes. On Earth, humans had a saying, "Someone has to stand in front." "Redirect all shields to Earth," the human said. "That will expose the capital," a commander shouted. The princesses looked at each other.
Then, one by one, they spoke. Do it. The shield shifted. The capital stood bare.
The weapon fired. Light tore through space, and the galaxy held its breath. The light from the weapon crossed space like a burning star. For one endless second, no one breathed. The beam struck. Not Earth. The combined shields of the Empire and the human fleet met the blast together. The energy twisted, bent, and exploded outward in a violent wave of light. Ships vanished, stars dimmed, the shockwave rolled through space like a scream. When the light faded, silence followed. Sensors came back online one by one. Earth was still there, damaged, scarred, but alive. Across the command center, disbelief turned into stunned silence. The enemy weapon had overloaded. It was never designed to face sacrifice from both sides. The enemy flagship drifted, powerless. The battle was over. Slowly, ships across the galaxy powered down their weapons. The war that was meant to destroy the Empire had instead rewritten its future. In the royal capital, the Galactic King watched the final reports arrive. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from relief. "They chose each other," he whispered. The princesses stood beside him. No armor, no pride, no laughter, only understanding. One of them spoke quietly. "We thought strength was domination." Another added, "We thought perfection meant control." The third looked toward the image of Earth on the display. "But strength is choosing to stand when you gain nothing." The human was brought before the council once more. He looked tired, older, but calm. The council hall was full again, but this time there was no laughter, only respect. The king struggled to rise from his throne. The human stepped forward instinctively to help him. The king smiled faintly. "You see," he said to the council, "they help even when not asked." He turned to the human. "Our empire lives," the king said, "because of you, because of Earth." The human shook his head. "Because we stood together." The king raised his staff one final time. "By royal authority," he announced, "Earth is no longer a developing world." Gasps filled the hall. "Earth is now a founding pillar of the Galactic Union." The words echoed across every channel. Across Earth, people heard it. Across the stars, civilizations froze in shock. The princesses stepped forward. In a moment that would be recorded forever, they bowed, not as rulers, but as equals. "To humanity," one said, "we offer respect." Another continued, "Trust." The third finished, "And a shared future." The human did not bow back. He simply nodded. That gesture alone changed everything. Days later, as repairs began and fleets returned home, the galaxy whispered new stories. Not of the alien princesses, not of the ancient empire, but of Earth. A planet that was mocked, a species that was underestimated, a people that survived itself and then saved others. In the quiet moments before his final rest, the Galactic King looked out at the stars. "We searched the galaxy for perfection," he said softly to the princesses, "and found survival instead." The king closed his eyes. The empire did not fall. It evolved. Years later, children across alien worlds learned a new lesson in their schools. Never laugh at a world that still fights itself. Never mock a species that keeps standing. And never forget the day the galaxy learned the truth. They laughed at Earth until Earth carried the future of the stars.